allyship. And shout out to the homie Rashad who just came in. He lives in NASCAR town, Charlotte, North Carolina. So when we talk about NASCAR, NASCAR is the whitest of whitest sports that exists, right? They live off this southern ideal where they recognize who they're marketing to. They marketing to southern white folk. And so marketing to southern white folk is certain things that they don't necessarily have to do. They don't have to pander to any other group to try to get people to engage with them, to get people to participate in their sport. Nah, they recognize who their space is. Well, they recognize their space and they recognize who their audience is. And so with that being said, that's why we've been able to see the Confederate flag being flown proudly for years and years on end within NASCAR. Y'all IG folk, y'all messing me up right now. All right, there we go. Try to get y'all situated. So we know the Confederate flag is a part of NASCAR's history just as much as it is about Southern history. While we recognize what it means, we recognize that it means hate, that it speaks to oppression. I was just having a few arguments on Twitter to where it escalated, because you know these conversations tend to escalate. People are saying, no, this is heritage. No, this is heritage. But in reality, no, a lot of this is hate. A lot of it is oppression. And so within the last 5 years, and so 5 years ago specifically in 2016, they recommended for their fans not to bring Confederate flags to racing events. Recommended. We know what recommend means, right? We know what recommend means. It means, hey, we're asking you politely, hey, don't do this, right? We know what the daily recommendations are for our nutrition. You know, a couple thousand calories. We know what the recommended caloric intake is. But in reality, how many of us go over it every single day of the week? Raise my hand. And so a lot of times it's not till you're forced, it's not till you're sat down in some way. When we're talking about our health, it could be being pre-diabetic like I was at one point. It could be getting high blood pressure. It could be having high cholesterol. It could be seeing your friends, family, your loved ones deal with these health issues, which sits you down. And so I guess NASCAR had they come to God moment this week when they said they're banning the bringing of Confederate flags to any of their race parks. Good job, white people. Good job, white people. You're making a little bit of progress. And you know, I say that, I say that facetiously, clearly, right? What frustrates me is I'm on Twitter and I see the NAACP saluting NASCAR for this big move of taking the flags down. Not only taking the flags down, but not allowing people to bring it to their parks. And I'm like, huh. Now with NASCAR being the whitest of white arenas, pandering to the southern crowd who have a history of deep racism, not all, but some, and I hate that I have to say that, but you know how we are in 2020. You gotta say, well, some, not all, because you don't want to ruffle any feathers. Even though I'm sure, like, the majority of people who like NASCAR, they maybe never said the N-word, but when they listening to, like I talked about yesterday, Kanye and Jay-Z, N-words in Paris, they said it under their breath. Right? Those the smart ones. Those the smart ones. And so when we look at the history of NASCAR, we'll say, well, Well, you say that they're potentially racist. Listen, that's kind of harsh, right? Effort, they're racist. They're racist, and it shows in their practices, right? So this week, Bubba Wallace, who is NASCAR's only African American driver, and I'll say that again, Bubba Wallace is NASCAR's only African American driver. And many of us only know him because he said he's going to drive a specially painted Black Lives Matter car this weekend. And it's like, shout out to him, because I can only imagine what it's like being the only black man in that environment. The unfortunate part is when we talk about how they are on race relations, how are they on diversity? He's one of 7 black drivers that have ever driven a NASCAR race. The list is so short, I could give you the people. You got Elias Bowie. That's an old name, so that had to be a while ago. Charlie Scott, George Wiltshire, Randy Bethea, Willie T. Ribbs. Listen. The man's name is Willie T. Ribbs. The man's name is Willie T. Ribbs. First, he got to be a Negro. And he has to be an old Negro. Then you have Bill Lester in 2006. So from 2006 to 2017, there were 0 black drivers on the NASCAR circuit. But yet here the NAACP, good job taking down those Confederate flags, man. And I was afraid that this was going to happen, because here we are in this time of civil unrest, which some of the credit, I'm not going to even say a lot of the credit, some of the credit goes to George Floyd and his murder on national TV being broadcast and social media being broadcast. But if we keeping it real, we got to pay homage to COVID-19. You might say, COVID-19, why are we paying homage to COVID-19? And that's because history has shown us that when a black man, seat all falling down, when a black man dies on camera, there might be some local outrage, but rarely is it national outrage to the point where they're taking it to the streets. And so the reason why COVID gets some of the credit is because they grounded our economy. They've grounded our lives to where many of us are just twiddling our thumbs. And so those same protesters that you see out there, what if they had places to go? What if they had things to do? What if they had people to see? What if there was no corona? Then would George Floyd be just another hashtag? Make sense? And so it looks like it was a perfect storm. We needed COVID. Now, unfortunately, there was a lot of deaths that resulted. There was a lot of sickness that resulted. And so I'm conflicted, because it's just like, can we look at some of these people as being martyrs? Could they have given their lives for a bigger cause, unbeknownst to them? Because if COVID was just like the flu, if it was just like what was those other things, swan, bird, pig flu, all those other ones, and it was here today, going tomorrow, would we have the outrage that we have now? In this systemic change, albeit minor, would we have this systemic change? I don't know. I would say no. Just given off what history says. But also what's happening in this time, you are forced to pick a side. What side are you on? Are you going to be on side of the right? And I'm not talking about Democrat, Republican. The right will be police brutality is wrong. Racism is wrong. Which it would seem like easy decisions. An easy side for people to choose. For companies to choose. But they've shown historically that they don't do that. We see Jerry Jones getting backlash because he quiet. Quiet as a mouse. We see some companies understand, listen, I know who my base is. They gonna give up the bread. This is America's team. And it's a little different with Jerry Jones too, because, you know, he was talking about, listen, every Dallas Cowboy will toe the line for the national anthem. So it's nothing that could this situation, because then he'll look like a flip-flopper. And like I heard one journalist say, at what point in Jerry Jones' entire life has he not allowed ego to make decisions for him? And so yeah, you probably won't hear him unless something done came out and I'm not privy to. But it's so easy to say, you know what, I'm on this side. They cancel Cops. Outside of the Simpsons, probably the longest running show perpetuating black trauma that exists. I'm not saying the Simpsons perpetuate black trauma, but you get what I'm saying. They cancel Cops. These folk not stupid, man. They recognize what the bottom line is. It's about that bottom dollar. Look how fast Reebok disassociated themselves from CrossFit. When their CEO said, what did he say, Floyd 19? And then he had to resign. Then you see the racists who come out, and you know what they do when they come out, right? It's freedom of speech. They love throwing the Constitution at you. It's freedom of speech. Indeed, it is freedom of speech. You can say whatever the heck you want without fear of prosecution. But that court of public opinion, that's a different animal all in itself. Especially when you start to F up the money. When you F up the money, then you gotta go. And so we see NASCAR. NASCAR not trying to F up that money because they seen how real it's getting out here. Because if they cared about it so much, 5 years ago it wouldn't have been a mandate. They would have came out with this statement condemning the Confederate flag. Let me pull this statement up. What did it say? NASCAR statement. The presence of the Confederate flag at NASCAR events runs contrary to our commitment to providing a welcoming, inclusive environment for all fans, our competitors, and our industry. Wait, what? Black folk don't go to NASCAR events. And my lights all going haywire right now. Black folk not going to NASCAR events. Why the hell am I watching somebody drive a car in a circle? If I want to do that, I'll go get in the Kia Soul and drive around the block 200 times. So stop saying it's contrary to providing a welcoming and inclusive environment for all fans. Were you not doing that before? Or is this a part of your diversity and inclusion initiative that you've probably had to roll out within the last few years? And why'd you have to roll it out in the last few years? And that's why it frustrates me when I see folk like the NAACP and I see black folk on Facebook talking about good job NASCAR. Meanwhile, Mauricia Grant in 2008 settled a $225 million lawsuit against NASCAR. What were her claims? She said she was referred to as nappy-headed Mo and Queen Sheba by co-workers. She was also sexually harassed. She was told that she worked on colored people time. And see, when I hear that, that's when I get mad at us. Cause y'all be thinking this is just funny when you're around your white colleagues and co-workers. Around white folk in general. Divulging the things that we say amongst ourselves. Remember back in the day on social media, it'd be like hashtag insider, inside joke. Y'all just be letting everybody in. And then they taking it and going to work like, hey, it's cool. I put that on y'all. And then she said she was frightened by one official who routinely made Ku Klux Klan references. Subsequently, it was settled. Bruh. Listen. $225 million. I don't know what the settlement was because it allowed both sides to admit no wrongdoing, which is what companies do when they've wronged people like a mother sucker. What's that thing Beyonce talk about? NDA, non-disclosure agreement. But again, we talking about NASCAR. We talking about NASCAR. I'm gonna finish this bogus statement. Bringing people together around a love for race and a community that creates this. I'm not even finishing that. That's not even. We know it's nonsense. We understand what this is. We don't want black folk coming for NASCAR. That's what that is. That's what's going down. And that's just the game. That's just the game, and that's the game that we're playing. And it's important that we can't be easily swayed by these performative acts by these companies, these organizations, by these people. We need to put these folk on ally probation. You know, when you go to a new job, you might be on probation for a month, 3 months, 6 months. We need to put these folk who say they really about their life, this allyship life, this advocacy life, put them on probation. So don't show me what NASCAR is doing today. NASCAR got to show me something with their hiring practices in 6 months, in a year. Now you can't undo bureaucratic racism in a month, in 6 months. I'm not shooting them no bail. Yes, you can. You can if you wanted to. If that's where your commitment lies. But how are they engaging the black and brown community to even want to come to these stupid events? I'm not far from the Poconos. I know they have the Poconos 500 up there. Again, 500 miles around the track. This doesn't seem entertaining to me. And so, no, I think it's, for them, it's they're trying to be preventative, even though they're reactionary. They'll probably donate some money to the NAACP legal fund, like the A&E channel. And you want to understand what where policing is? Watch some episodes of First 48. Watch some episodes of First 48. Watch black folk on there. Watch how they interact with them. And not just black folk either. Putting people in handcuffs just so they can come down to the precinct to have a conversation with them. The intimidation that's used. It's unsavory. And I just find it ironic that A&E says, listen, we're donating to the NAACP legal fund. Black Lives Matter. And they done ran a marathon of First 48 for 3 straight days, which highlights black trauma, which is no different than cops. Damn, this lighting getting rough. The irony, right? Again, this is where you got to start asking them. Jay-Z said it best. Is it Uchiwali? Or is it one mic? Is it Black Girl Lost? Or is it Shorty You Owe Me for Ice? And I don't think we give those bars enough credit. Because what he told Nas was, he told Nas, pick a side. Are you over here or are you over here? It's not making sense. It's not congruent. And so this is how we transition into our next conversation. When we bring up y'all homie Meek Mill. Now I salute Meek, right? Coming from the damnedest of circumstances. Making as far as I know, making a change in his life. Being an advocate for